Hey Kristi, my name's Joel. Thank you so much for ordering your 3-card reading from Brouhaha. We got all of your information, so we are just going to light some candles and some incense and then draw your cards and see what answers we have for you. And we will do a little smudge. This is just sage before we get going, just to clear out the energy in this space. Okay, so before we actually draw your cards, I want to kind of show you everything that we've got going on the table here. We've got 4 candles that we sort of always burn. This is an oil, a Lammas oil that we threw together. We're not selling it or anything, so I'm not trying to sell it to you. But I'm mentioning it because I have a feeling that your reading is going to be somehow centered on Lammas, because everything in your post was so sort of immediate, and Lammas is coming up. So we might be talking about Lammas in this reading. If not, don't worry about anything I just said. These 3 stones are sort of based on a little bit of what I think is going to be useful for you. We'll get back to these toward the end of the reading, okay? So we're going to shuffle. Okay, Kristi, your cards are the Wheel of Fortune, the Knight of Swords, and the 5 of Wands. Whoa. Okay. I feel like we could almost do a whole reading on just the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is a huge card, and it relates very directly to what you're asking about. I want to start, see if I can get this overhead thing just right. This figure right here on the top corner is Fortuna. And Fortuna is a sort of mythological figure that you see popping up in a lot of English, Anglo-Saxon, Arthurian legends. And especially in this legend, the legend of the Wheel of Fortune, Fortuna, as she relates to Arthurian legend, is King Arthur has this moment where he sort of sees himself kind of on top of the wheel. This is how Wheel of Fortune gets introduced in this card, as a wheel. And meaning in this case, he sort of saw himself on top of life as the conqueror of all life, conqueror of all lands. He was Arthur, the Arthur. And Fortuna comes in and turns the wheel 180 degrees. And he suddenly realizes that he's on the bottom. And he is, in that moment, realizes the whole moral of the story is that he is sort of at the hands of fate, that there are mysterious forces that no matter what he does, he cannot grapple with, because there's always that wheel of time. There's always the Wheel of Fortune. There's always this cosmic sort of dance between forces that we understand and forces that we don't, going back and forth and back and forth. And you can only do so much. So the Wheel of Fortune, again, I could go on for a long time about the Wheel of Fortune, but how I think it relates to specifically what you're dealing with right now is a few things. The first is the toppling of a masculine, powerful figure. And I think based on everything I read in your description, that could apply to definitely 1, maybe 2 masculine figures that you mentioned. This card's all about that. It traces its roots to that sort of history. Now, does that mean that these cards are telling you to get a divorce? I want to draw a firm line in the sand right now and say that that is up to you. That is, these cards are not going to tell you, they're not going to give you an answer to that. They're giving you wisdom. They're showing you these old archetypes, these old stories, in the hopes that you might draw something from them, some further wisdom. So, that having been said, the Wheel of Fortune does have to do with the toppling of a powerful, overbearing figure. The other thing that I think is important for you in the Wheel of Fortune is you mention a lot in your submission that you've been praying to your spiritual forces for guidance, and I think this card is trying to let you know that you are being heard. And the reason I think that is, I mean, you can just see in the card, there's all kinds of like really cool imagery going on here, but really mysterious imagery, and that speaks to that interpretation I was talking about, where we're talking about mysterious forces that we can't really fully understand, even though we think we have a good grip on life. This T-A-R-O can refer to a lot of things. It can refer to just the wheel itself. It can refer to life. It can refer even to tarot. It can refer to a lot of stuff. But these symbols in between, almost exclusively in most interpretations, refer to God. So You are being heard, I think, is what this card is trying to tell you, in addition to that masculine figure that we were talking about. Now, the third and final thing we're going to talk about today, because again, I could go on forever about this one card, but the third and final thing we're going to talk about today is that the Wheel of Fortune has to do with change. The wheel of time. Just think about that sort of ancient symbol. Always moving, always progressing. Nothing is ever stagnant, even if it feels stagnant. Nothing is ever stale, even if it feels stale. Children are always aging. Adults are always getting closer to death. Marriages are always evolving, even if they don't necessarily feel like it. So I want you to try and just get a grasp of that sense of time as you're moving on. Don't feel so stuck in your marriage if you can help it. And I don't mean stuck as in prison. I mean stuck like in time, because I feel like we start feeling stuck like we're in time with one aspect of our lives, and then we start feeling that way across the whole spectrum. And before we know it, we start feeling like time isn't really applying to us, which is a very unhealthy place to be. You always want to feel this wheel of time moving, forward momentum. You got one life, you better experience it, okay? So that is the last sort of Wheel of Fortune interpretation we're going to get into. Now let's jump into the Knight of Swords. So the Knight of Swords is, I think, the Wheel of Fortune in this reading, it's kind of giving you an environmental sort of metric. It's showing you where you are. You're in this period of immense change. You're in this period of feeling like that this Arthurian masculine figure might need to topple. You're in this period of everything revolving around you, forces you don't really understand, trying to grip with your own confusion in your love life. The Knight of Swords, I think, is giving you sort of a mechanism to find your way out of that. The Knight of Swords is all about action. If there's one word that relates to the Knight of Swords in my mind, it's action. It's go, go, go. Let's look at this card here. Get a nice close-up image of it. You see this guy, he's just charging into battle, headlong, sword outstretched, ready to go. This guy's never lost a battle, all right? This guy is a fighter. He's gonna go, he's gonna go, he's gonna go. And he's gonna go courageously, headlong, no hesitation, right into the storm. So in addition to the nature of the knight as being sort of headstrong, charging into battle, something else that happens to us when we haven't really lost a battle, youth is a good sort of, way for you to think about this, your own youth, before we all get jaded by life. When you are in that space of like headlong, have not really lost a battle yet in whatever way that means to you, in whatever part of your life that you feel like you haven't really lost yet, there is a sort of innocence that you are guarding against. You know you're going to lose at some point. We all know at some point, whatever it is that we are trying so desperately to hold up that has not been tackled yet will get tackled. I mean, at the very best, when you die, all these things that you're holding up are down, and what's next, who knows, but it ain't this for sure. So before you see these things falling around you, whether it's relationships that you once believed in, jobs that you once cared about, hobbies that you once loved, friends that you once had, all these things, before they actually crumble, there's this sort of desperate attachment to that kind of innocence, this desperate attachment to the reason this guy charges into battle so ferociously is because he's afraid of losing, if that makes any sense. So I think this relates to your particular situation because it's telling you the forces that govern the way these cards come out. Call it spirit, call it random cosmological statistical anomaly, call it whatever you want. Whatever it is telling you that the way through this confusion that you're feeling right now is action. And an action to maintain something, I think, is especially important. It's a reactive action in order to maintain something. What is that thing? The Five of Wands. The Five of Wands has to do with a kind of childish glee. It has to do with a playfulness. It has to do with a sense of like adventure and wonder and youth and newness and beginning and prosperity and all these things that come when you feel young, when you feel fresh, when you feel new. All of these things kind of together, I think what is trying to be imparted to you is maybe not necessarily an answer directly to your question, but maybe an answer to a deeper question that's under your question. Maybe the answer to this whole thing that's behind Bill and Ryan and you, and this whole sort of confusion is actually not a question about them. It's a question about you. It's a question about where are you? It's not so much how are you responding to them, because of this card. This is telling me that this is about you. Where is this in your life is the question I would be asking if I were you after this reading. Where is your sense of adventure? Where is your sense of head forward, charging into battle? Where's your sense of newness, your sense of play? All of these things are things that come from within and that inspire us to find the truth. Look, there are mystical, spiritual forces at play in your world, and there is a big change coming. I don't know if that's your divorce. I don't know if that's, you telling both of them to get lost. I don't know. What I do know is that it's coming, whatever it is. And when it does come, when that wheel of time does turn and you find yourself on the other side of the top, this is what's going to see you through. This kind of headstrong, focused, you are in your body, you are in your mind, you are in your spirit, sense of play, sense of adventure, sense of wonder, not getting bogged down by this whole discussion that you're having in your head. Because look, we all have these discussions constantly. We have these discussions in our heads that feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, whether it's with our relationships or our family or our money. So many things, so many conversations that are constantly weighing us down. And I feel like this long, sounds like deeply dramatic and possibly traumatic relationship series that you've had with these two guys. Sounds like to me that that's definitely one of those conversations that is weighing you down. Maybe instead of letting that conversation play constantly and you listen to it, turn your gaze out. Turn your gaze out, look for adventure, look for, I'm going to say God, whatever that means to you, look for God. Look for wonder, look for synchronicity. I'm getting a little teared up just saying this. Look for joy, look for fun, look for charging into things, look for adventure, look for excitement apart from them. I'm not saying leave them both. That's your call. Not about them. Not about them at all. All about you. This, all about you. Something's coming. These are not them. These are you. Okay? So, my answer, or the card's answer to your question would be, I hear everything you're saying about these relationships and I hear how traumatic it is to you. Put it away. Just put it away in your mind. Focus on you. Focus on turning out. Meditate. Find your God. Start doing things that make you happy. I know it's the simplest thing in the world, but don't we forget to do it all the time? Do things because they make you happy. Force yourself to do them, especially when you're feeling all of these hard emotions to deal with in regards to your relationship. That is when you should be the Knight of Swords the most. That is when you should play with your friends the most. That is when you should have a good time the most. I want to talk about Lammas now. Now, I mentioned earlier that we're burning a little Lammas oil here. Again, it's not for sale or anything. It's just something we made to celebrate Lammas. Lammas is coming up tomorrow. This year it's on August 1st. And your reading could not have been better timed. This winter is going to be, I think, a big deal for you. And I think all of this is winter. Is what we're talking. And the reason I think that is going back to the very beginning of this reading, because of Fortuna. Another thing that happens that is related to the Wheel of Fortune and Fortuna, we didn't really talk about a whole lot in this reading. This is also kind of related to Lammas. And I think all of this is indicating to me that this is all very temporally immediate for you. So get ready. There's a ritual, a king-slaying ritual that began with Fortuna. The image of Fortuna, or the archetype of Fortuna, or the mythological symbol of Fortuna, historically has been invoked around Lammas and also kind of later in the season, depending on where you're looking, as part of a ritual in which a priestess or a priesthood would slay, metaphorically, a king. And this happens around harvest time in general. Fortuna is the figure through which that was in a lot of traditions, done in the name of Fortuna, so that a more prosperous winter could come, or not winter, a more prosperous season next year, a more prosperous king, a better king. Fortuna is the figure through which the king-slaying motif is based around, and in part that is because of the Arthurian legend I was telling you about Arthur being on top of the wheel and suddenly being shifted to the bottom because of Fortuna. This becomes a ritual, and I recommend to you to go look up Lammas, go look up this ritual. Again, you're going to see a few contradicting things. That can't be helped. There's all kinds of sources saying all kinds of different things about these figures throughout time. Take a look at it. For some reason, I'm thinking this ritual, if you do rituals, or if you don't, just knowing about it is going to be really beneficial to you. It's, again, you're looking for Fortuna, you're looking for Lammas, slaying of the king ritual. And it sounds way worse than it was, and historically it has been kind of bad. But these days, it's a very tame ritual that might give you a little bit of clarity, put you a little bit closer with your angel figures, understanding that ritual, why people did it, maybe even doing it yourself. And in the king-slaying ritual, I know it sounds like kind of grotesque, but a lot of the point of it was that you have to die before you can be reborn. We have to go through this cycle. This cycle is inescapable for everyone all the time. Everyone's ever lived has gone through it. Everyone that will ever live will go through it. And you have to reach the point on the circle through which the circle no longer continues in a linear fashion before you can kind of start it over again. So the king-slaying ritual was about that. It was about death and rebirth as essentially the same point on time being a flat circle idea. Heady idea, I know, but for you, I think understanding this king-slaying ritual and understanding its connection to life and death and understanding how historically it has to do with these patriarchal, masculine, kingly figures. For some reason, this is all tying into this wheel for you, this time of year going now, starting Lammas tomorrow, and going through the winter. All three of these cards, all three of these stones, all of this, that's the time that you're looking at, okay? So the other half of Brouhaha is my wife, Laura. I don't know if you have a chance to check out all our information, but I'm definitely a cards guy, and she's more of a stones gal. And she picked out these 3 stones for you after reading your description, and I actually think they fit really well into the cards that were selected. So let's start with this one. This is carnelian. And all 3 of these stones are projective stones. They are stones that you're going to sort of be pointing outward, much like this knight and this 5, outward, outward, outward action, fierce, strong, outward action. So carnelian is all about courage, and it's all about finding your voice and strengthening your voice and using your voice. Does that relate to your relationship? Probably. Relationships? Probably. Does that relate to all your friends and family and all these people you're going to be playing wands with? Yeah, it does. So strength, courage, and I'm mentioning all these stones, by the way, because I kind of want you, wink wink, nudge nudge, to go get them, order them somewhere online, whatever. If you're right-handed, keep them on your right side, in your right pocket, sleep under them, under your pillow at night on the right side. If you're left-handed, do it on your left side. That's going to project this energy out, which is what you're going to need for all of this, projecting this energy out. So carnelian, you're projecting out courage, you're projecting out confidence, strength, finding your voice, living in your voice, being truthfully, honestly you 100%. All right, this one is green aventurine, or aventurine, however you would like to pronounce it. And this is going to send out from you and also give to you a sense of healing, a sense of calm. This one, if you wanted to put either of these, any of these 3 in a receiving space, this would probably be the one to do. And that would just mean switch it to the left side. Put it on the left side. Whatever your non-dominant hand is, put it on that side of you and keep it there. But you can also project outward healing, and oftentimes when we project outward calm, healing, peaceful energy like you find in this stone, it comes right back to us. Honestly, anytime you project anything outward, it comes back to you, which is why I think these cards are so important for you. You start projecting this out into the world, and it starts coming to you in ways that you can't foresee right now. These mysterious forces start bringing them to you. So green aventurine is going to be very important for you for a sense of calm, a sense of healing, a sense of peace, a sense of tranquility, which I think you definitely need in order to be able to do this. You need to be able to feel calm inside so that you can unleash this playful, wonderful Knight of Swords in you. So the final one here is red jasper, and you're definitely going to want to keep this in your dominant hand position, projecting outward. This is all about getting through a sea of change. This is all about getting through this Wheel of Fortune and seeing the other side of it. This is all about navigating those things, and the way you navigate those things by projecting this energy out is you are projecting out an energy of rebirth. You are knowing that the Wheel of Time begins and ends with birth and death simultaneously. All things are always happening all the time simultaneously, always. We all know that, right? What you need to do is adopt that a little bit into your life, knowing that you are always in a state of rebirth, that the progression towards death is just a progression towards birth. So, putting this energy out there, keeping it in your dominant side, and projecting it out, this sense of play, this sense of rebirth, this sense of youth is going to free you. I know it sounds paradoxical, but I believe it's the truth. The more you turn your gaze outward, the more you focus on the things around you, not the situations, not the people, not the relationships, not the things that are troubling you, but the things that are giving you wonder, the things that are giving you joy, the things that are making you feel young again. The more you focus on those things, the less the other things matter. The more simple they become. You can't see right now because you're in the forest and you're seeing the trees. You need to get outside of it a little bit. And you do that by having fun. Give yourself the freedom to have a little fun. Give yourself the freedom to feel like a kid, feel reborn, feel courageous, feel powerful. Go rock climbing, go do something that's scary and cool, and your job sounds scary, but something else that's scary and cool and different and new, and make new friends and all this other stuff. I promise you, if you turn your eyes away from it for a little while, focus on you, focus on happiness, focus on joy, focus on all those things, these big, huge mountains of questions and issues are going to get so much simpler. You just have to give it over to time. Give it over to fate. Give it over to this giant wheel that's constantly turning. Recognize that you can't solve this on your own. You just can't. Give it over to whatever you believe in, to time, to God, to spirit, whatever it is. Give it all over and start living. Just start living without it. Maybe not, cut it out of your life, but live your life as if it is not as big an issue as it feels like right now. And before you know it, that will be true, okay? So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I would love to do a full reading for you. These three cards are very powerful cards. There's a super strong thing coming for you on the wind. We will be here for you. If you need anything, please, send us feedback, either public feedback, let us know what you thought of the reading, or private feedback, whatever you need, we're here for you. You get a discount on a full reading. If you want one, just send us a message and we'll send you a promo code or something and give you a discount, and we can go even farther into this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you from Laura and I both. Thank you so much, and I hope this answered some of your questions. We'll talk soon.